Hello friends, greetings from our wilderness here. I don't know if you can see Missy. And is there Milo? Milo, where are you, Milo? Here is Milo, Milo's tail. They are here with me. Went for a walk. Today I would like to just talk a little bit more about the shadows. A little bit more about the story about the broken shell. Some of you wrote to me about, what sort of you saw in that story, like not to take shells from the beach, for example, and things like that. I don't know if it happened to you at school as well, but in the Czech, whenever we read a poem or a story or something, the inevitable question then from the teacher was, and what was the message that the poet wanted to say with this poem? And my thought always was, well, I do not dwell in the poet's head, so I can only say what I think, or how it affected me, or how it influenced me, and so on. But I wouldn't dare to say what the poet actually wanted to say with his writing. My writing about the broken shell was, actually I wrote this with my auntie in mind. My auntie, who was a very dear person to me. She was more like a sister than an aunt. She was a teacher, and whenever I wanted to share some of my stuff, that I used to write since I was a little kid. So whenever I wanted to share some of my writings with, for example, my mom, who was a very practical person, my mom would say, stop this nonsense and better go and do something useful. And that kind of didn't sit very well. So I always went and discussed these things more with my auntie, and she always had some good input, and she always listened. And sometimes we had some laughs because she made some interesting points. And but my auntie, with years, developed depression, and she became more and more depressed to the point that she attempted suicide twice. And nothing was probably harder for me than see my beloved grandfather, who who lived through 2 world wars, who protected his family, who seemed to be, to me as a little kid, the strongest, biggest, most courageous person in the world. To see him sit and cry, away from everybody, but he always went out to his, he had animals outside that he cared for and so on, to sit among his animals and cry when Auntie attempted suicide the second time. He was also the type who would be running to the hospital, going there every day, even though he was in his 80s, by then, and had a heart condition, and it was hard for him to walk up the hill to the hospital and so on. He would be there every day for her. He would do the impossible to try to get her out of, help her out of the depression and out of that condition that she had. And I was young at that time and not very understanding, I guess. And I just thought, look, there is so much literature out there. There is so many people who could help. But we all know that helping somebody puts that person actually in an even more vulnerable and helpless position sometimes. So with Auntie, that depression obviously became clinical, and her life basically ended in a mental institution, and then later in a hostel for elderly people. My mom visited her also, very frequently. We were in Australia, so I had to work on myself quite a bit to become more understanding of Auntie's condition and accept that sometimes there just is no help. Sometimes there is just acceptance of the situation and love for that person. And that's all that we can give. And in the story of the broken shell, I actually wrote the story with Auntie in my mind. She was broken and she was affected by life's knocks. And she was obviously more vulnerable than, let's say, other people are. And that was maybe even due to programs that we are all programmed, in our childhood, between, pre-birth to 7 years of age. And that sort of becomes part of our subconscious mind. Now, Bruce Lipton says that our brain, operates, subconscious mind is basically about 95% of our brain activity, while our conscious mind is about 5%. So obviously, if you try to override something that is 95% there, it's like trying to override a supercomputer with a little, I don't know, 2 gigabyte mobile phone. That's probably a really bad example, but yeah, I'm not very technologically minded. So we can read 1,000 books and we can have that understanding on a cognitive level, but when a situation arises that challenges us or that comes unexpected, our subconscious starts obviously reacting, and our programs kick in, and that sort of affects then our, I guess our whole outlook on life, how we feel guilt, how we feel all these sort of things that are part of our program. So it is not something that we opt for. It is simply something that when our subconscious mind takes over, and in my auntie's case, it was guilt a lot for whatever reason. It then basically takes reign, and we are quite helpless. So writing about my auntie and accepting that, everybody is different, everybody has different programs, different vulnerabilities, different abilities to overcome those programs and to seek information and to act on it and to have the will to actually try to override those things that have been programmed in us. Everybody has a different ability to do that. So I learned to simply accept and love. And the story about the broken shell, the fact that the sun, in the end, when I'm writing, that the sun shines on all the shells, on all of them, and they all look beautiful. That is basically a metaphor for the universal love, for God's love. Whatever you believe in, I believe in God. So it is, to me, it's God's love shines and encompasses and embraces all. Regardless, everybody, every single being, every single creation in this world. And in the end, we all, our bodies, however we lived, however we succeeded or didn't, or whatever we want to call it. I mean, what is success? And we can go into a completely different tangent. However we live, our physical bodies become dust, and just like the shells become part of the ocean, and part of the ocean's floor. So we become part of this earth, and our souls will return to the infinite and all-encompassing love that there is, and that sort of shines on us all. Bruce Lipton also says that we can override our programs, those 95%, through, there is only about 2 ways how to override them, and that's through hypnosis or through repetition. So what I have done, and please don't think that this is some kind of a cure for everyone. It's not. This is just something that seems to be working for me when things get tough, or when I become aware that I am becoming or being directed and being controlled by my programming, by my subconscious, and that is repetition. It can be, people call it affirmations. It can be meditation. It can be prayer. It can be repetition of mantras that you write yourself, and literally repeat it every day, when you wake up or when you go to sleep. I've written one for myself, so I'll read it to you in the end. I hope I hope it will kind of give you something. It's, in the end, the choice is always ours. The choice, the will, and the responsibility for ourselves is ours. And sometimes we get better at it, and sometimes we are just a plaything of life and of whatever is thrown our way, and that's okay too. So the message for today is really love and light. Kumbaya. Love and light. You look after yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to everybody if you can. And I'll read you the mantra when I get home. And on Thursday, we are going to, my friend and I are going to Utopia Falls, which my son describes as those 3 puddles in the bush. It's actually quite beautiful there. So I will record that for you. And by the end of the week, you will have a video again, or beginning of next week. I don't know how quickly it goes. You will have a video of Utopia Falls. So, wishing you all the very best. Look after yourselves. Love you all. And we shall talk again. Bye.
My mantra. With all my heart and all my soul, I choose to believe in the good. The good in me, the good in my fellow humans, animals, plants, the good in this world, seen and unseen. With all my heart and all my soul, I choose to be kind to myself, my body, my soul, and my mind, and to all my fellow earthlings. With all my heart and all my soul, I choose to forgive myself for my mistakes and hurts I caused, consciously and unconsciously, to myself and to others. With all my heart and all my soul, I choose to forgive those who hurt me. I will not allow those hurts become my pain, a gate to sickness and to fear. I choose to appreciate things that meet me in my days as a blessing, as information, and as potential to become kinder and loving. I choose to appreciate things that I used to take for granted. I accept responsibility for myself and all that this encompasses. I choose quiet joy, which I want to feel and share. I love my Creator and all creation of which I am part.